Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube segment, I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on what I've heard about Dr. Drew, and his show is going to be ending on September 22nd this year, and a lot of people are speculating that this has something to do with the fact that he made what was seen as some controversial statements regarding potential U.S. President Hillary Clinton. And as far as her competency and what she'd be able to accomplish in the White House, because he had questioned her mental competency, I believe, and whether she could actually handle the position or not. Now, because of this, I don't know 100% if that is the reason why they have called this show to an end, but one thing is for sure, I will miss it because I used to watch Dr. Drew religiously. I really thought he had some very insightful thoughts into the medical aspect of things and talking about why some criminals may commit some crimes and looking at the mental aspect of it and talking about whether this person might be psychotic or whether there was maybe a traumatic experience that happened in their childhood that this crime may have been attributed to, for example. So there are this show had a lot of interesting things on, and I admire Dr. Drew because he seemed to give his guests a lot more latitude than a lot of the other hosts do on average. And although he would speak his mind from time to time, you still, when you're the host of a show, you have to be assertive from time to time and assert your position. And sometimes you don't really have much choice but to let others know who is in charge, and which is what he has been able to do from time to time. And really, this is a show that really it focused on a lot of, I guess you could say, very relevant news, things that would happen and that would be local, that would be not local, but what I'm saying is that would be very relevant, things that were current events. If there was some shooting, he would talk about this maybe, and then he would give up maybe an analysis as far as maybe mentally on the person that committed the murder or did the shooting or what have you, and get into the psychological element or aspect of it. And I really thought this was a very good, that made this show very interesting, because on a lot of shows all you have is just like people, there'd be a lot of people arguing constantly, or the subject matter would not really, to me, would not be of much significance. You'd have a lot of these shows that would talk about, well, is this baby the father or is this baby not the father? And it gets kind of monotonous after a while. And this show, what made this more of a different show and made it very unique to me, was that it focused on situations, prominent news stories, and he would talk about what he thought the mental aspect of it would be. And now, granted, we can't always blame like a murder on someone's mental condition. So a lot of times people are just flat out mean, ruthless, nefarious. Yes, I do think there's some people that can be evil, and not necessarily just a person like Hitler or Charles Manson, who I believe was the personification of evil. But I mean, there are people that are just flat out mean and nefarious and really are completely immoral and corrupt. And while maybe to some degree you could say, well, they're psychotic, they have something mentally or emotionally wrong with them, they're emotionally or mentally unstable, that's still, there's a lot of people that are emotionally or mentally unstable and they don't go around shooting people. So we have to look at it from that perspective as well. But at the same time, I like the fact that Dr. Drew would inject that mental element into things and look at the psychology of things. And he would even, a lot of times I would get a kick out if he would take a model of a brain out, and he would point to certain components in it and say, well, this part of this brain might have been impacted strongly, and this is what caused this to do that. He's had a number of interesting guests on the show. He had somebody that, I forget her name exactly, I think her last name was Driver, and she wrote a book about people not being able to lie to her, and being able, it would talk about detecting prevarication and detecting lies from others, such as somebody making a gulp and could indicate that they're lying when they're talking to you, and just various things, and certain things with the eyes flickering a lot would not necessarily indicate that somebody would be lying to you, but they're very attentive and really trying to really focusing and concentrating on what you're saying. So there are, I mean, he had a lot of very interesting guests on the show, and I am going to miss it. It is going to end in a month from what I heard that was reported on September 22nd, which I believe you have to check to make sure, but I think this is on a Thursday, and it'll be on HLN Network. And he apparently had said that he's going to be still be on one of these networks. And you know what I look at it though is that, in my own personal opinion of this, I don't think the show deserved to end for whatever reason, whether it had to do with the controversial show about Hillary Clinton, and whether she had whether she was going to have the faculties to be able to perform her job potentially as U.S. president competently, or whether it was for another reason. They said that some other show was going to take over the Dr. Drew slot, but really, I don't think he deserved this. It's a shame that this had to happen, but I do think there will be light at the end of the tunnel for him. I think he's very good at what he does, and I think it's inevitable that he will find some other work somewhere, and I do believe another network will, in all likelihood, pick him up, and he will be able to resume that show or something similar, have a similar title, maybe basically discussing similar subjects or what he's talked about previously. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube segment for my take on Dr. Drew and him leaving HLN next month, and leaving, or I should say, the Dr. Drew show being canceled on September 22nd. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.